Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah.
Brother Raphael, how you feeling today, sir?
Moorish.
Moorish.
That's right.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. All right. I'm feeling Moorish as well. Super fantastic.
Praise Allah.
Indeed. It is amazing. Just real quick. I'll be paraphrasing a quote from our brother Jesus alayhi salam that said, "My people suffer from lack of knowledge." That is more evident today, just as it is back during the time of the Prophet. And the reason that I'm starting off with that is mainly because it's important that we are what we know. You know, this Moorish Divine and National Movement is not a thing that you do. It's who you are. And if we, as I mentioned last Holy Day meeting, it has to become a part of every part. For the newer members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple number 19, and all of the visitors, I would like for you, if you're taking notes, to research your carpenter's tools. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the carpenter's tools later on. But when you research the carpenter's tools, you find several tools that are very similar to what the carpenter uses, but they're also tools that can be figuratively used to sharpen the mind. It's also called tools that are used in the workshop of the mind, where we build character. All right. The definition of nationality is that quality and character, which arises from a person belonging to a nation or state. What does that mean in layman terms? Nationality is an idea, and it's how you carry yourself. So how your merit, your level of merit, your degree of merit, how you consider yourself, how you think of yourself, how you think of others. How you think of yourself and how you think of others will determine how you treat yourself and how you treat others. And if people do that as a collective, then that's a nationality. Nationality is not an object. The Moorish Science Temple of America is not the nationality. It is not the nation. I say this all the time. It cultivates the nation. It harbors the nation. It develops the nation, but it is not the nation. The nation is you. The nation is anyone with any member of the Moorish Science Temple of America that strive to promote the interests of the Prophet's Moorish and divine and national movement. Also the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So if you foster and cultivate that ideology, then you are perpetuating your nationality. You are perpetuating your nation. Islam?
Islam.
So for those that do not have a collective idea, a shared idea, as the brother Raphael said before, that are more reactionary than proactive rather, then you're going to find yourself in a vicious cycle. And it's not to turn my nose up or cast any stones, but this is the reality. Because it has to be a point where you want better for yourself and the people around you. And I say that specifically because we want better for ourselves. Raise your hand if you don't want better for yourself. Right. So we want better for ourselves, but we think the only way to get better for ourselves is to only do it by ourselves. It's to step on toes. It's to that proverbial crabs in a barrel theory. Most of us, not all of us, because we're here to understand and raise our thoughts, because this is the holy day. So praise Allah for those that are here today that want to raise their thoughts to the highest planes of virtue and develop an understanding of salvation, Allah, and unity. Of wisdom, will, and love even. It is our duty when we raise our thoughts into whatever lessons that we get from our Holy Day meeting to at least plant the seed of the lesson that you learn for your Holy Day or from your Holy Day and from your Sunday school to the people out there in the cares of the world. Now I said at least plant a seed because that's part of teaching. So you have to, or it's important that we give our people options. Not ultimatums, options. Because there's no compulsion in religion. But if you give them the option and you exhibit how beneficial this option is, because that's how people react. That's how people do certain things. If we want to look back in our lives, we made decisions based off the options that were best for us. The Prophet says in the Most Holy Quran, man finds himself we can best solve his problems. So depending on what your issue is and your problems are, the options of resolve that are revealed to us, we make those decisions. In other words, door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. And depending on the door that we go through, and depending on the door that we choose, that's how we move forward. That's the choice that we have. But think about only having one door. Or think about even having 2 doors. Let's do that. Let's have 2 doors. All right. You have being a Negro, a descendant of a slave, and then being black, which is still a derivative of being a Negro and descendant of a slave. But you have those 2 options. Prophet says a person can solve themselves. A person can only be what they know. So the question that I pose to you is, who are you? You don't have to answer that question right now, but it's something for you to ponder. Now, as I always ask, who are the people that you surround yourself with? Do you know your circle? Do you really know your people? Like, do you really know your homeboys or your homegirls, your peoples that you rotate with? Do you know their character? Do y'all share a similar character? Now, we're not asking that each and every one of your partners and your friends and your associates, constituencies, that y'all have the same interests or whatever, but the mindset that y'all have, the goals that y'all have. I use this all the time, and I'm gonna say this, brothers, because you all are here. If you are the wealthiest friend in the circle, then your friends should be wealthy as well. If you're the only wealthiest person in that circle, then there's a problem. Then there's a problem with you conveying to your people how to become wealthy, and it's an issue with them communicating to you that they want to be wealthy. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yes, sir. But going back to those options, our people only have 2 options. They have option number 1 and option number 2. So it's our responsibility as being missionaries of Allah, missionaries of Ali, to give them that 3rd option. To say, okay, we understand that you think that you're descendants of slaves. We understand that you think that because you're descendants of slaves, that you carry yourself and you react and you operate under the moniker of Negro, black, and colored. You're Black American. But here's another option. This is a better option. This option is Moorish American. This is the option that your forefathers had. This is the option that your foremothers and forefathers had, rather. This is how we carry ourselves as Moorish Americans. So again, going back to yourself, let's think about your personal journey. All right? So think about when you had to make a decision of what direction you wanted to go in life. You had to choose the one that was better for you. I talked about my dietary habits last week. All right? I made a dietary habit based on my situation and the situation that was around me. That was the best situation for me at that time. But that situation became available for me once I searched for it. All right? That option came available for me because I went in that space. Now times have changed to where people are not, that many people are not looking for information, but you're in the groves, you're in the garden, you're around people that are not familiar with the ideology of Moorish American. They're not familiar with the Moorish Divine and National Movement. They may have an idea of what it is. What's those brothers out there with the buckets on their heads? Why them sisters got them towels wrapped around their head? What they doing? But it's your responsibility in the language that they understand to explain to them what this movement is about. Now it's a daunting task because you have to put apples to oranges. But as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad has stated before, that you're giving them the option of the clean glass and the dirty glass. So my question to you is, how much of a clean glass are you? Now, if you're just as dirty as the glass that's being presented to other people, then they're not going to be interested in the Moorish Divine and National Movement. They're not going to be interested in the Prophet, because the only thing they want to see is two dirty glasses. Or they may see a dirty glass and Kool-Aid. So one is no better than the other. So it's up to you to display the best image of that clean glass. Are you up to that task? We make these comments, and I myself, I hold myself accountable as well. Where we may comment on the actions of our people. But again, when you grow up with a certain ideology, with a certain concept in your mind of how you are supposed to be, can you really blame them? Have you, if you're around people that have that similar mind, have you revealed to them the option of the Moorish Divine and National Movement? And it may take a while for them to come, but do they remember it? Do they at least know about it? I have a brother that I'm talking to at my day job right now, and every time I talk to him, hey man, when you gonna come to the meeting? You know, and he walks around with the ankh on, and you know, he has a company, he has a t-shirt company that is printing out shirts that talk about Africa and royal life and stuff like that. But he thinks that he has to get all of his ducks in a row in order to be a part of that. Now, whatever ducks that he has to get in the row is between him and Allah. But it's my opportunity, if I'm the mastermind that I'm claiming to be, to know, to talk to this brother about, no, you don't have to be. You can be a broken blade, if you will. You can come in with an empty cup. You can come in with whatever you're trying to develop and work on, and I can guarantee you that the Prophet's divine teachings and divine instructions, rather, can improve on you. So if you're coming in and you're a smoker, and you want to quit smoking, the Prophet has a remedy for that, has a resolution for that. If you come in and you're procrastinating and you're not that good of a worker, you find yourself being a slave to the rhythm, as they call it. The only thing you do is go to work and come home, and you want something better for yourself. The Prophet has a resolution for that. So we have to believe in the resolution and the teachings that our Prophet has given to us, so we can express those things to our people. Now, if none of us, first and foremost, let me first say, you shouldn't be afraid of being a square, because you're different. All right? Just because you may come to work with a kufi on and you say peace, peace fam, peace sis, peace brother, so on and so forth. Don't be ashamed of that, because they may not have seen it before. That's right. People are gonna pick on you when they don't know about anything. I was joking with my coworkers earlier today. We were talking about dietary habits, and I was telling them that when I first got to my new job, man, they had clowned me and joned me because I didn't eat pork. You don't eat pork? What that mean? You know where you at? You down south. How you gonna be down south and you don't eat pork? You black? Matter of fact, I'm not. That's another story. But as they began to know me and they began to observe my character and see how I move and so on and so forth, they said, "Well, how you doing, Rashid?" They call me Rashid now. Even when I didn't go through I wasn't at the full process, and I was, I took on the name of Rashid legally. They would still call me Rashid. I got brothers that, bless their heart, they don't even know how to say it properly, but they say Assalam alaikum. So even if they just see a semblance, or even if they see that for 8 hours a day, they're seeing it. They're seeing what that clean glass looks like. They see what it is to be a Moorish American, how someone moves. All right? So your job is to be a missionary. You're not going to be able to bring anybody in, but at least you're going to influence them, and at least they have an idea of what the Moorish divine and national movement is about. That goes back to Acts 6. Thus all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, not telling our people their nationality and divine creed. You understand me?
Islam.
All right. So I wanted to lead off with that. So we have to give them the wisdom. We have to give them the knowledge, the wisdom. We have to give them the wisdom, will, and love, rather. And sometimes, again, that's one ideology. I tell people all the time, if you can get them to understand what it means to love, then Allah will take care of everything else. Get them to love themselves, because they may not even know what that means. We go throughout life thinking we know what love is. We think that love is Valentine's Day. We think that love, with all due respect, is Christmas time, buying presents at Christmas time. So those may be its actions, but it's not what love is. Because it's gotten to the point where if you don't receive any of those things, what do they say? Well, you must don't love me, or I must not feel love. So even if they know the principle of what it means to love, then you have done your job. Why is that? Because Allah is love.
That's right.
And if they know love, then they know Allah.
That's right. Islam.
If anything, beginning the process of getting to know Allah. And to know Allah is to know thyself.
It's Islam. That's right.
Etc., etc., etc. Y'all see how that works?
Islam.
So, I wanted to lead off with that. And what I want to do to save time from Sunday school, secondly, I want to discuss the Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. I know we have new members here, and I want to make sure we go through that and we get a full understanding of Act 7 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Those are additional laws, sis. There you go. You gotta make sure you bring it back with you. That belongs to simple. All right. I'm gonna try something different. We're gonna read this in unison. Okay? For those who are not familiar with the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, to make it simple, every organization, every institution has what you call a mission and a vision, all right? And the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America is similar to a mission and a vision. Like all organizations that have members, they also have bylaws, and the bylaws are specific, are just that. They're laws and standard operating procedures that one to use while in the organization. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Okay. All right. With us being an organization that promotes the ideology of the Moorish American nationality, we have a constitution. Okay. So our prophet had given us a constitution for us to abide by as a nation state in an organization, but he's also giving us bylaws to operate as the organization. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Okay, and so we already had reviewed Acts 1 through 6, and we're going to finish off with Acts 7. So for those that can read along, we're going to read along with me, and y'all can follow after I say Acts 7. Everybody there?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Y'all ready? All right, let's do it. Acts 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam was? Islam. And it actually goes on further. Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. Moorish Science Temple of America, home office, Noble Drew Ali, 3140 Indiana Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60615, USA. That is actually the complete Acts 7. But we wanted to just go over that paragraph. Now, for those that that were able to catch a glimpse of that, to what is it that you're hearing? What is it that you're thinking when you hear Acts 7? All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's pretty much self-explanatory, right?
Indeed.
Okay. What does it mean by promptly?
Right away.
Right away. Absolutely. Promptly attend their meetings. Don't come to your meetings, be dragging in the meetings. You should be attending your meetings promptly, just as you would come to your first time at a job. Just if I was telling you, hey, Moore, if I was on the phone and say, Moore, I got $1 million for you, you wouldn't waste no time. You'll be there. I tell you to be there at 8:30 a.m. You'll be there what time? 7:30. Friday morning. That's prompt. That is prompt. So we are prompt for things that we want. We're prompt for things when we know that we're going to get some reward from that, some tangible reward. But we got to remember that there's more than one concept of a reward. You also have a spiritual reward. You also have a moral reward. Again, it goes back. I'm gonna be repeating this for as long as I'm up on this rostrum, Allah willing. A prophet said that our problems, in a profound sense, is moral and spiritual. So before we get to the economic and social, we got to get the moral and spiritual together. That's how you develop your character. You develop your character based on your moral and your spiritual principles. Islam? So we have that, becoming a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. What is an uplifting act? What would be considered an uplifting act? For the brothers that could you give a generalization to the brothers that may not know what we mean by uplifting act? Even though it may be self-explanatory, but I want to give it from the Moorish perspective. Yes, sir, brother Akil.
I rise in all praise to Allah and the highest honor to his Lord and divine prophet
Islam.
Uplifting act. Something as simple as food and clothing drive, or what have you.
Right.
That would be the simplest, I believe. Brother Lante and the brother not Khalid, Jalil. Brother Lante and Brother Jalil frequently engage in uplifting acts in their feeding the hungry.
Right.
What organization is that?
The New Era.
New Era Atlanta, exactly.
Islam. In Al-Islam you have 5 pillars. And one of the 5 pillars is called zakat. All right. Zakat zakat is basically righteousness. We say zakat in layman terms is charity, but zakat, if you go to this brother's middle name, what's your middle name, brother Akil? Zakil, okay? Zakil is very similar to zakat, all right? So it means that he is a righteous brother. Matter of fact, he's saying that he's the righteous one of ill, all right? So when we talk about zakat, in comparison to an uplifting act, let's say you're not able to do a food and clothing drive, but it says in Al-Islam that you can even just present a smile, and that's zakat. Why? Because it's an uplifting act. It's a righteous act. Islam? So being a part of all uplifting acts. So all uplifting acts is exhibiting principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. All right? Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Uh-oh. Paying dues. Paying scratch. I have a question. I want to hear somebody's draw on why is it that the average, I'm not going to even say the average Asiatic, if you will, or African American. I'm going to say, why is it the average person has an issue with paying tithes or taxes or dues? Why is that?
Allah is giving all praise to Allah and honors to our Prophet
Islam.
I think one of the core issues is trust.
Islam.
Something that we need to work on.
Islam.
We say in the Moorish Science Temple, I want for you what I want for myself.
Absolutely.
So until we derive to that conclusion,
right?
You know, and everyone's on that page, we'll always have a problem with dues.
Right.
But it takes finance.
Uplift the nation.
Uplift the nation.
Right. Uplift the nation.
And so once we become a partial,
right,
that is something that we are obligated to.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's tough.
It is tough.
It is
tough.
It's a tough demonstration.
It is tough.
But it's necessary. It's needed.
Right.
And in any organization, we know that it takes finance to
right.
I hope I helped.
No, you did. It's very well, more. If I may add on to the concept of trust, my measure from trust is that is an aspect of love.
Indeed.
So for me to trust someone, I have to love them.
Indeed.
And just based off of my studies of this Moorish Divine and National Movement, love is a mindset. So just as hate is a mindset. So, when we think about the times when we love, I'm gonna get you, brother. Think about the times when we love and we hate someone. When we demonstrate the mindset of love and demonstrate the mindset of hate, we act differently. If I love somebody, I'm gonna trust them. I'm gonna give them whatever so they can do things. If I love this movement, then I'm gonna contribute to this movement. And even if I can't financially contribute, if I love this movement enough, I'm going to attribute sweat equity. I'm going to contribute something to let them know that I am divested in this movement.
Islam.
Did I say that right? Divested? Can I say divested? Invested. Invested. Okay. Invested in the movement. Brother Jalil, what was your demonstration, sir?
Arise, give honor to Almighty God Allah, His divinely prepared prophet, Noble Drali.
Islam.
Something I want to add to that, being head of an organization myself, one thing I found why paying dues is so hard is there is at some point there's a lack of prioritization. So the mission or the movement, whatever that may be, whether you're feeding people, whether you're in the Moorish Science Temple, Nation, or whatever, it's no longer at the top of the list. It's been bumped down. Maybe you started a new job, moved, or but from my experience, it's what the Sheik has stated before, but it's also I don't know if deprioritization is a word, but there's been a shift in priorities why people don't pay dues.
Right.
They don't see the importance of it.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Just
No, go ahead, more. I'll be talking all day, more.
Because it's a good discussion, and,
Right.
and a lot of too comes from, I think, learned behavior.
Right. Could you expound on learned behavior?
Well, just like when I'm telling on myself, I'm telling too. When you know, when I was younger, you know, and we had knock at the door.
Right.
Mom said, "Don't answer the door. Don't answer the door."
Right.
Why not? I said, don't answer the door. Ain't nobody must be open. Ain't nobody trying. You know. And so this becomes a learned behavior to not want to. You say, well, you don't want to give them money to certain people or certain organizations, or, you know. And so yeah, this kind of just that's. I think a lot of our problems we know are social and economic, but that comes from a learned behavior.
Right. Which is moral and spiritual. Now, did somebody have a measure? Because I want to expound on that, because that's a very good point. I want to expound on that, but go ahead, brother.
Islam. Once again, I rise, and all praise to Allah, highest honor, smooth about Rashid.
Islam.
I would also say that the paying of dues goes into being willing to sacrifice yourself, being able to give a part of yourself to that thing that you are contributing to, that thing that you are holding to a certain level.
Right.
You know, even if you're at base and you feel that this movement is so far ahead of you or above you,
right.
By you being able to sacrifice a part of yourself to the movement, you are in thus raising yourself to be warranted or to be available, or you are raising your standards, if you will, so that you can be a part of a movement that you hold so high and so lofty.
So it's very interesting that the things that we mentioned, because not only does it fall under the principle of love and how you act once you start to demonstrate that principle of love, but it also talks about the character. All right. So just real quick, going back to the plight of the Black American, the Negro American, we only can be what we know. So what is it that our parents, what do they tell us? On average, they tell us to what? Go to school, get an education, go to college, and then what?
Get a job.
Get a good job. I'm glad you said that. Get a good job, right? Now, those are definitely words of wisdom, but we don't know how. You know, and then on top of that, through that process of us growing, there's not a process of teaching us how to have multiple streams of income.
That's right.
How to save our money. You know, how to invest in things that'll make us money. You know, so we are birthed into debt. And hopefully it doesn't sound too spooky, but when we look at, and the reason I say we're birthed into debt, because on average, not saying all of us, but on average, we are not taught the characteristics and the principles, the moral and the spiritual characteristics, if you will, or virtues that would help us handle our money, our finances, and our conditions better. So thus we get caught again in being slave to the rhythm. So we may not have a job that pays us enough. We may only have a job that helps us to pay our rent, and that's it. You know, so what do we do then? You know, what do we do when our condition only allows us to take care of what's in front of us, seeing the trees before the forest and not the forest before the trees? So again, this is where you begin to change your mentality. This is where the principles and the institution of the Moorish Science Temple of America comes in, because we're supposed to be changing your mindset. We're supposed to be changing how you think. Does that mean that's going to be a great journey? No, it's going to be a horrible journey. It's going to be a rough journey. It's going to be like growing dreadlocks? How many of us grew dreadlocks before? Don't raise your hand. Nobody likes the middle stage. Nobody likes the stage when it doesn't look like dreadlocks.
Ugly phase.
Yeah, nobody likes that phase. Sometimes you want to cut it off. I remember when I was growing my locks, every time I would get it twisted, it like five hours afterwards they would be untangled. So I'm in the mirror trying to. So we don't like that phase. We want the end result. So we come into organizations with the ideal of the end result. Regardless if it's the Moorish Science Temple of America, whether it's the UNIA, whether it's the Nation of Islam, whether it's New Era, we come in, I'm here, save me.
Wow. Wow. Islam.
And to coin one of my favorite actors, Wesley Snipes, he says that we pray to Allah to give us the biggest cake ever. But Allah may not give us the cake, but He may give us the batter. He may give us the butter. He may give us the recipe. He may give us the stove, and we like, but I don't feel like it.
Islam.
But it's the mentality that we have. I mean, how many of us, again, so this is going back to the concept of the workshop of the mind.
Teacher mode.
So how is it that we go from, but this is the condition that we're dealing with. So the challenge that we are, because all of us say we masterminds. Again, we're intellectuals. We're in the Moorish Science Temple of America. We know the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and all those things. So now, let's prove it.
That's right. That's all.
Plumb the line.
So, going back to paying the dues. So we have to gradually, if anything, we have to impart on them the idea and the importance of that. Now, one way to do that, if I may, is to give them a tangible goal. I mean, let's be clear. Let's be honest with ourselves. We only believe in what we see. And that goes for us as well. Brothers say, well, I'm a Moorish American, and then that's it. But we go in and we Negro with a fez on. So people are going to watch us and say, okay, well, how are you a Moorish American? What are you doing that makes you different? And they see it. They say, okay, I see it. Okay, all right, they're going to keep watching, and they're going to look at their situation, and they're going to say, okay, well, can the Moorish Science Temple of America help me with my situation? And it may not be the Moorish Science Temple of America. It may be the Nation of Islam, maybe New Era, maybe the UNIA. However, this is the Rashid teaching. It's not the teaching of the Moorish Science Temple of America. May Allah forgive me. Prophet says, teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. So their nationality may not be Moorish American. But the goal is to make sure that they're not under Negro, black, and colored.
That's right.
So even if you remove the Negro, black, and colored, they say, okay, well, I'm a Garveyite.
That's right.
I'm with the Nation of Islam. Then, mashallah.
Mashallah.
That's the blessing right there. So we have to be mindful of the condition of our people and say, okay, well, we have to give them something to say, okay, well, this is what we're shooting for. We're shooting for in the Moorish Science Temple of America. We want cushions for men and women. So the dues this month, a portion of the dues this month is going to go towards getting cushions for the brothers. I want cushions. I want to sit in the groves and So that's what we're going to do towards the end of the month or however long it take us. When we're going to tally it up and say, okay, this month more, this is what we got. We got cushions. So next month when you come in after you pay the dues, you see cushions on the seats. So they can see that. They can see the progress. But you just can't say we're paying dues, and we don't see anything being done. So that's Prophet say receiving and confirm reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. So we have a mutual obligations as members of the Moorish Science Temple of America to people to see, so they can also see fruits of labors. Brother, were you raising your hand? Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were raising your hand. So paying their dues and keeping in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So the Prophet even says, even if you're not quote unquote paying your dues or paying the fiat currency, you can still keep in line with all necessities. So what are the necessities? Making sure that the temples is clean. How many of us will come in early and make sure we set up for the temple? how many of us will come in and sweep the floor and mop the floor and make sure the temple is ready? Prophet says, prepare the grounds for my arrival. So are you preparing for the prophet? Are you preparing for the spirit of the prophet, for the spirit of Allah to come in and anoint the place? All right? Are you preparing your mind to receive the spirit and the lessons and the teachings of the prophet? Islam? So, members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. All right? The Moorish Science Temple of America, specifically Temple number 19, you have 3 tiers. You have First Heaven. First Heaven is a member. All right? You come in, you get your card and button, you do your thing, you get your fares, you start participating in uplifting acts. You take initiative. You're assertive. You start establishing your own committees. Then you are to be looked at as becoming the faithful, because you are a faithful member of this society. You are. What does it mean to be faithful?
Ongoing and persistent.
Okay. What else does faithful mean? You're perpetuating the faith. You're perpetuating the faith of our beliefs. All right. So you're the faithful. Fidelity. Loyalty. All right. In the teachings of the Quran of Mecca, you'll hear a word. I'm not going to say a word being thrown around, but you'll hear a word quite often as mu'minun. All right. The average Sunni Muslim will tell you that mu'minun means believer. All right. But on the contrary, to be a Muslim is to not be a believer. To be a Muslim is to be one of the faithful, one that has the faith and the loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his prophets, not just believing. All right. Belief is the first step. That's what we're taught. But when you come into al-Islam, when you come into Islamism rather, you are striving to become one of the faithful, to become one of the many attributes of Allah. All right, so you are considered of the mu'minun. All right, there's a masjid right at the intersection of right past Unity and where's Turner Field, Hank Aaron Parkway. Yeah, so it's the intersection of University and Hank Aaron Parkway, right before the train tracks. There's a masjid called Al Mu'minun. All right, that's actually where I took my shahada when I started learning the degree of Muhammad. But that is the place of the faithful. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. So you can't become a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America and just be sitting chilling. You can't just be sitting in the groves and waiting on somebody to tell you to do something. All right. We are grown people. All right. We know what we want for ourselves. All right. We have an idea. So more than likely, if you want it for yourself, your brother or your sister wants it as well. All right. So we have to work towards that. If there's something that you see that's needed in the Moorish Science Temple of America, form a committee and work towards it. Islam?
No.
All right. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. This is my favorite part right here, because this part gets a lot of controversy. All right. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Okay. Right. All right. Wife. I'm sorry. Husband, you must support your wife. What does that mean? Husbands, to support your wife.
Financially and emotionally, everything. Honestly, everything.
Honestly, everything. All right. So
I usually say that it's usually to be the protector, the corrector, and the director of your family.
say it again, boy.
Protector, the director, and the corrector.
Could you expound on that more?
Well, as a protector, you're basically the vanguard of your home. of your whole household and your community. So that does not really mean just that you are protecting your own children in the
Right.
home. You're protecting children around your home.
Right.
You're making sure that everything is square.
Islam.
Director, making sure that you're the example
Right.
of what you want your family to be, or how you want to raise up your family, or teach your family. You're directing them in different, like going to school, going to college, going to the masjid, going to the temple, going places where they can build and excel. And I think the last one is correct.
Right.
And correction is good for everyone. Correction is just showing, your children and your family and yourself and your wife, you can be corrected.
Right.
And that's the most important part.
You're not
Is that
above correction.
you can, right, you're not above correction, that you can stand to be corrected. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
Right.
Be that example.
Right.
So when it's time to chastise you,
Right.
you know that when you see me out of order, you can chastise me too.
Islam.
Islam? Hope I.
You did more. I just want to add on. We foster the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad in the Moorish Science Temple of America says that the man is the head of the household. Being the head of the household doesn't mean that they are the executive controller, in a sense to where the wife doesn't have any say.
That's right.
We go into our Moorish Holy Qurans and it talks about the duty of marriage. It talks about the responsibility of the wife. All right. So as the president of the United States is considered what? The head of state. He still has a cabinet and a council and people that are there for checks and balances. Your wife is there for your checks and balances. If I was to make it quite plain, the man is the head of the household because more than likely, if there's an intruder in the house, he's the one that's going to take the bullet. And if he's not the one taking the bullet, then sisters, then we have a problem with the man that you choose.
That's right.
I don't think I really need to expound any more than what our Sheik brother just mentioned. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sister Shantia, when you hear that, what are your thoughts on that? And we can be honest.
Just making sure everything is in order, making sure that children are doing what they need to do and that they are following, what laws or rules or whatever was laid down.
Right.
So just making sure, everything's organized.
Okay. So, we sisters have an issue with the word obey, because they think obey is synonymous with being submissive, or not even submissive, but oppressed. No, we're not saying that a woman is to be oppressed. If we were to look up the word obey actually means to attentively listen, to be to adhere. And this is especially, again, when it comes to important situations and making a decision. If we were to, marriages are a business. The husband would be the CEO, and the wife would be the COO. And that is the hierarchy. So being in the Moorish Science Temple of America, both men are to respect the hierarchy, and women are to both men and women are to respect the hierarchy. Men respecting it, making sure that they don't disrespect the woman or take advantage of the woman. Women are to respect the hierarchy, knowing that the man is making the decision based on the interest of the family and having the trust in making the decision based on the family. Islam?
Islam.
All right. It is important that we in the Moorish Science Temple of America promote and perpetuate traditional families.
That's right.
I'm going to say it again. It's important that we in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we promote and perpetuate traditional families. Why is that? Because we don't see it often. I'm sorry, we do not see it often. This is nothing against any other form of ideology, but we have a mission. If there was a better, if there was more of an example of a traditional family household, then that can be, that can be consulted with. But in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we promote a traditional family. We promote a husband and a wife. We promote the husband supporting their wives. We support the wife obeying the husband. And we also support that sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious. And that is the one of the major parts. I don't want to skip over that, because we just hear sons and daughters must obey father and mother. But then the prophet also says that they must be industrious. So remember what I was telling you before about how at birth we're born into debt? But if we follow that specific act to the T, Act 7, and we are industrious, the children are industrious, and we're promoting the child being industrious, then we start to break that cycle. We don't have to worry. So it's our responsibility as parents to assure that our child understands what it means to be industrious. So the traditional family is actually growing and perpetuating a business and a legacy. So if you have a family, you should have a family business.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The family business should be that one source of income, or should be multiple sources of income depending on what y'all doing. But the sons and daughters are also to be encouraged to start their own business. Tell me what y'all see when y'all go into Chinese restaurants. Who do y'all see at the restaurant?
Kids.
Whole family working there. And I can guarantee you that they have a business somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
And what's very interesting is that child may go on to become a doctor or lawyer, etc., etc. And they're going to start their own practice. But guess what they know how to do, just in case their uncle or their father are not able to open up or run that Chinese restaurant. Run the Chinese restaurant. Or even better, they'll teach their children so the grandchildren know how to run the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Well, just count back off that. It's a store on Kyle Parkway. And I have the name of the restaurant.
Right.
And the very first time I saw it, I just thought it was amazing.
Right.
But there was a child who had to stand on his table.
Right.
Over the counter.
Right.
Took my order, got on the cash register. Right. Took my money. Right. And gave me my change. Right. And called out the orders to his father and his mom.
Absolutely.
While he's running, yes sir. And he knew exactly what he was doing.
Back home in Virginia, there was a eatery where I lived, on the corner where I lived, and I literally, from the time that my mother moved there, I saw at least 2 generations run that eatery. I went there. It was I think at the time I was a senior in high school. I saw a young man that looked to be about my age that was running the register. Okay, I moved to North Carolina. 5 years later, I go back to that same eatery. Him and I are still in adults, and I'm talking to him. He knows, and he's understanding English a little bit more now. So we're talking. I'm like, "Where you been? How you been? Been a while, etc., etc." He's like, "Well, yeah, I'm going to school for this and this and this. I'm still helping my family though." Come back 10 years later, I see his son working at that eatery. I'm like, "Well, where's your father at?" He was like, "My dad, blah blah blah. He's doing something else." That's generational wealth. Okay, so we first have to get in the mindset of what it means to have generational wealth. So that means that we are to sacrifice with the information that we know and making sure that we secure something for our children. All right. Now, again, this is another Rashid ideology. I'm under the belief that if we are to truly have a community, that at this point, our children don't get to decide what they want to be when they grow up.
That's right.
like I said, I know that's not the favorite thing, but as blessed as that person, unless if Lil Johnny, if Rashid Jr. want to be a basketball player, Rashid Jr. may have to play for the D League for the time being, because we need Rashid Jr. to be a doctor and a lawyer to come back to the community. Maybe 2 or 3 generations removed, yeah, then Rashid the fourth can be a basketball player. He can be an artist or whatever. You know, but we have to cultivate and let them know the importance of being industrious and promoting and perpetuating the community. Because if we just have Rashid Jr. go and play sports, where he gonna move at? He not gonna move back in the community. He gonna move somewhere else, especially if we don't, if once he gets exposed to the outside world. You know, so it's important for us to really know what it means to perpetuate the perpetuate community and community development. Islam? Oh yeah, must be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. What does it mean to have your hearts and minds pure with love and your bodies clean with water? What does that mean?
I just mean be clean and I mean
I like that. Be clean. Be clean.
Take a bath.
have just the best intentions or the best plans.
Oh, there you go.
Teacher.
I can't say anymore. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. What is a covenant? Contract. Woo, that was quick. All right. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. All right. Divine covenant through your. So if it's a divine covenant, what is a divine covenant?
Divine contract.
Say what? Okay, so what a divine covenant or contract with who?
Allah.
With Allah. All right. Father of the universe. Islam. So that means you have a divine agreement with Allah, the Father of the universe. This is not the first time. Allah has come plenty of times and made covenants and contracts with his people. Now, whether or not those people have adhered to those contracts wholesale, that's another story. That's why we're in the condition that we're in today. All right? So, our prophet, well, Allah, once again, through our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, is giving us a covenant. Those covenants, whether you read it by way of the Levitical, let's go by way of the Quran of Muhammad, by way of the Levitical laws, by way of the Avesta, the Vedas, they're still the same. All of those principles are in those 7 acts. Once again. So we have another opportunity to adhere to them and come back into the fold of the family of nations. But it's up to us to do it. We have to do the work. It doesn't just stop with proclaiming your nationality. You also have to teach your nationality and your divine creed to others. And continue to cultivate yourself. And raise yourself up to those thoughts. All right? Through your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. All right? Who has, may I use this? All right. This divine covenant from your holy prophet, Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. It's not a coincidence that our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, is under what we consider to be the all-seeing eye.
Signs and symbols for the conscious
Signs and symbols for the conscious mind, more. So, that is our divine constitution and bylaws.
I was wondering about that.
Do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna lie, everything kind of passed me by because I don't know anything about Islam too much, you know. And just growing up Christian, you know, like hearing this is just new.
Right.
You know, it's also like fighting programming.
Right.
You know, and I was wondering about that, about the eye that was on there and everything. And like, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's just like, it's kind of saying rewrite. everything. You know, and I want to know, is some stuff still similar? Because a whole rewrite based off, you know, just the knowledge that you don't know versus what you may feel or spiritually feel.
Right.
You know, that's just kind of what I want to know.
Right.
You know, just is it the same area but not a little different, maybe a little different avenue, or what? Like,
all right. So let's start with the all-seeing eye. Okay. Does the great God Allah, does the Creator, does He know everything? Okay. How will He know everything?
He sees it all. He's there.
Right there. Okay. The reason why we have the quote-unquote single eye without being super deep is because it reinforces that Allah is the Creator. Okay. That He is the one. He's Wahid. All right. He is the one. Okay. Going back to the similarities. All right. Are you familiar with your Bible? Okay. All right. So, are you familiar with Abraham?
Yes.
Okay. So Abraham, one of our prophets, alayhi salam, had gotten initiated by Melchizedek, and Melchizedek was the king of Salem. Salem means peace. All right. So that's one aspect. Then our prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, I'm paraphrasing, says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, so they should inherit the earth." All right. He also replied, I can't remember if anyone remembers it verbatim. He also replied to or greeted someone with shalom or salam in the Bible. All right. Society would have you think that Christians are not one of peace. Society would have you think that a Muslim is not supposed to be familiar with their Bible or with Jesus. In the Quran, you have Jesus and Abraham being mentioned several times. All right. Jesus, going back to the Bible, Jesus practices and exhibits principles of peace. So, to be clear, peace or the idea of al-Islam didn't start with Muhammad. It didn't start with Jesus. It started with the Creator. It started with the Most High. Okay. At that point, when he ordered everyone to work in harmony, to work in conjunction with each other. That's what we see in peace. What you see right now is an example of peace. All right, because we're all raising our thoughts. We all are thinking about being one with Allah. All right. Even the question that you're asking me, because what you're wrestling with is saying how is it can my ideology fit with this going on? It's very simple. The same thing that Muhammad taught is the same thing that Jesus taught. The same thing that our prophet Noble Drew Ali is teaching is the same thing that Jesus and Muhammad taught.
That's right.
All right. Customs don't alter the nature of truth. All right. We talked about this the other day. There's a difference between truth and fact. We think that we can find truth in the quote unquote fact. What is the difference between truth and fact? I know y'all seen this before, so bear with me. Okay. So what is this?
Cushion.
This is a cushion. Where is this cushion?
Yeah.
In my hand. Isn't that a fact?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now where's the cushion? In the chair. Isn't that a fact too?
Yeah.
Didn't that fact just change? But what remains the same?
That's cushion.
That's cushion. That is the truth.
Working.
All right. So regardless if you call it, so even if you call them Islam or Christianity, it's still the principles. So you're not, I'm not better than you because I pray 5 times a day. You're not better than me because you may say you may say the 23rd Psalm. We're all trying to get to the same place. All right. Our prophet Noble Drew Ali mentioned several times, we honor all true and divine prophets. We go over here if anyone can see. We have our prophets. All right. These in particular. We have Jesus. We have Muhammad. We have Buddha. And we have Confucius, alayhi salam. All right. And we can also see the truth in that too because they all look like us. All right. That was another misnomer that we have. We have an issue. Well, we're not going to say we have an issue, but how can you relate to something that doesn't look like you?
Islam, huh?
Right? What the European and other nations are doing, I'm not just going to get on the European. They have the tendency to say, okay, well, if I'm going to follow this particular way of life, it got to look like me.
That's right.
All right. That's why the Buddha, over a period of years, he went from having the coily hair to having the straight hair in the eyes, in the slanted eyes, and the lips got a little bit thinner. He started looking like Bruce Lee with a butt. All right. So, and even with Jesus, I got this story from my grand sheik. He said he went to a Christian Chinese restaurant and he saw a jade sculptured Jesus with the slanted eyes and everything.
Wow.
But on the flip side of that, he also went to a Chinese store that served halal. And so you saw a brother with a long beard and a kufi that said, "Assalamu alaikum, how may I help you?"
That's right.
Mustafa Chen.
Mustafa Chen. You know, so I often, I often encourage the brothers and sisters that have issues with Christianity or any religion to not blame the religion, but blame how the religion is being perpetuated. Because there's nothing wrong with the religion; it's the culture. All right, how is the culture adapting that religion to their way of life? The Chinese and the Japanese have it down pat. Indonesia has it down pat. Hindu has it down pat. In certain cases, you may not know those persons are Hindus, Christians, or whatever until they go into their respective buildings or their respective places of worship. So to answer your question, if you were to adhere to the principles of Jesus alone, you are a Muslim. Okay? Don't let any Sunni Muslim tell you that you're not a Muslim because you may not be familiar with the Quran and you're just practicing the biblical teachings of Jesus. All right? Because the biblical teachings of Jesus, contrary to popular belief, are the teachings of peace. If we were to read all of the manuscript that's in red, we'll see that what Jesus was about. Islam? Does that answer your question? Okay.
Now, next question now.
Yes, sir.
That just opened up another question. So, saying that you adhere to all of the teachings, well, not all the teachings, but that you respect all the other teachings.
No, we can adhere. We can adhere all day. Yeah.
So that doesn't invalidate neither one of them. Like no.
No.
So, America, the beautiful. American society interprets religion in a compartmentalized form. So you can either be Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or Jew. All right. Everywhere else in the world, the religion is ingrained in the culture. So what we consider to be quote unquote religion is actually culture to them. All right. So it's just if I may just talk about Al-Islam for a minute. So our prophet tells us that we are the foster of the Muslim religion, and so far as it is adaptable to our situation in America. What that means is that we are to read the Quran and adhere to the principles of the Quran, but there are certain things that we have to filter out because it may not be conducive to our situations as Muslims living in America. All right, the average Sunni Muslim will have you believe that your pants have to be flooded. You can't wear them past your ankles. You gotta dye your beard. You gotta take your mustache off. All of that makes you a Muslim. That's customs. That doesn't. I'm gonna say it, but I'm not gonna get into it. They will go so far as to tell you that you're not a Muslim unless you know how to speak the Arabic language.
Wow.
So, that's just like saying that you can't be a Christian unless you know how to speak Latin or Hebrew. So when we going back to the nation of China, China has its own culture, and when other religions came or other missionaries came to China, they saw the religion and said, okay, well, I can take the principles of Taoism, I can take the principles of Confucianism and and Buddhism, and I can integrate Islam and Christianity with that. Okay, if you were when the last time you've been to a Chinese restaurant? Next time you go into a Chinese restaurant, just look around. You're going to see three religions in the Chinese restaurant. You're going to see Buddhism, you're going to see Taoism, you're going to see Confucianism. Okay, you're going to see Buddhism, all right, because you're more than likely going to see or you may see what is the ancient Chinese religion? Well, I can't remember the name. Yeah. Well,
Taoism?
Yeah, Taoism. Would that be? That's not the one with the cat or the frogs or anything, though, is it?
No. Taoism,
yeah,
that's Lao Tzu.
With the cats and the dogs.
I don't know about the cats and dogs. Lao Tzu. Yin Yang.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah, I seen the cat.
Well, when you get a chance, you're going to see the ancient Chinese tradition. That's why you're going to see the cat that brings the good luck, or you're going to see the Buddhism. You're going to see the Buddha. Okay. In certain places, you may see the three wise men. That's the demonstration of Taoism. Okay. And then what I said, Buddhism, and then you're going to see Confucianism, because they may actually have a shrine for their ancestors. All right. They're going to, even in a Christian one. That's the crazy part about it. So you may see one, and the Chinese, and the person that's taking your order may have a cross. But if you look all around them, they have elements of their culture and tradition around them, because it's one and the same to them. Okay. So to answer your question, we as Moorish Americans, we just read all of those principles from those teachings right there. We can go just off the top of my head. Act 2 would be that first one right there. Okay. Act 2 actually would be the Prophet Muhammad and Jesus, if you will. All right, and Buddha.
So how can every church story be true?
Again, it's a difference between facts. And then customs don't change to alter the nature of truth. All right. So we are determined to have a definite fact, and the definite fact is supposed to be the truth. But everybody sees things differently. I see it through a different lens. All right. So another example would be, we always talk about how, where's the first man from? We in the Moorish Science Temple of America believe that the first man started off in Canaan, right here in Lebanon. All right. But you have other people that say that the first man is somewhere in Sudan, Ethiopia, or somewhere in Uganda. But what's interesting about it is that we never say the first man is over here or over here. It's all in this area. Okay, so who's telling the truth? Everybody is, because we don't know the perspective that it's coming from. We're basing it off of fact. Because remember, it was one sister that was found in Sudan. What was her name? Lucy. It was Ethiopia. Thank you, Moore. And then before that, what was the first one? It was, I want to say Sudan, or it was in Sudan. So again, the facts change, but what remains the same is that it's still in this parameter right here. Even in the Bible, when we talk about the creation of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden is still in here. It's still in this proximity. So we can't be off but so much. You know, dealing with people from other cultures. They may, if you study Taoism, Taoism is very similar to some of the principles of no, I'm not going to say that. Principles of Buddhism are very similar to the teachings of Jesus. When Jesus had to go internally with himself with these trials, after he was done with the trials, he had his friends come and minister to him. They had to give him food. That's what Jesus did. Same thing happened with Buddha. When Buddha got into the fully enlightenment and to understand the 8 noble truths, he had to go against himself. He had to go against the 2 serpents. And he had to conquer those 2 serpents. And after he conquered the 2 serpents, under the Bodhi tree, under the tree of wisdom, under the tree of knowledge and enlightenment, he had friends come and minister to him. Now they both minister him in one way. Both minister him. One ministered him by helping him out and so on and so forth, and the other ministered to him by way of giving him porridge. So those are two similar aspects.
Okay. Okay. Well, what about this? Then?
Okay.
This age is the age of misinformation. So,
is it?
Yes.
How so?
Well, information is being changed or deleted.
Okay.
And since people don't read books, everything is online. So all you gotta do is just delete something. You basically change history.
Okay.
People
You can rock with that. All right.
Now, there's a war on Christianity in China right now. They're locking everybody up who's Christian or whatever, the preachers preaching and everything. So if they are primarily Buddhist over there, what does that say if you ban Christianity?
So to add on to that, there's a war on both Christianity and Islam. Okay, and let's remove the word war, because it's not a war. What is happening is that the Republic of China is concerned about their citizens, because it's the duty of the citizens to perpetuate a particular culture. All right. So the methods are heavy-handed. They're very heavy-handed. But the ideology is, we want to make sure that you are a Chinese Muslim. We want to make sure that you are a Chinese Christian. Because if you become an Arab Muslim, if you become a Roman Christian, then you gonna have it. Then you what's the word I'm looking for? You face annihilation of a particular culture. All right. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with it, but again, we have to misinformation, because the media have you say that these people are being slaughtered and so on and so forth. What's happening is that these people are going through trials and going through a situation where they want to ensure that these people are not going to are going to remove the principles of their culture, because that can be a chink in the armor. That means somebody can come in and destroy the Chinese Republic as they know it. No republic, nobody wants that to happen. It's the same thing with here. You have people that come in, the Sikhs, the Muslims. They come in and say that they're threatening Christianity over here in America.
It's communists.
And America is not even a Christian government. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to us. That's why it's important for the Moorish Americans to be in the affairs of men, so we can provide the proper checks and balances and say, okay, well, what is really going on? All right? And again, do not get caught up in set tripping. All right? Right now, the best thing that you can do is you can get the information about a particular thing you may not understand. It's not about us. We're all trying to get to the same place. I can guarantee you the thing that I have in mind for my paradise is the same thing you have in mind for your heaven. It's not about proving what's right or wrong. It's about how can we get there together. Because again, this is a unity thing. Okay? There are Muslims, Christian, Jews in Europe. They seem to get along just fine. So what's the difference between what they're doing in Europe and what we can do? Just ponder on that. All right. Do we have any other questions? Yes, sir.
Islam, I give all praise to Allah and His divine prophet. I actually had 3 questions.
Okay.
Come with it tonight. Making you work, Sheik.
I had one question actually about the emblem, the star,
Okay.
and the moon. Why is the star so small? And then also, why is it at the top of the moon? Also, the number 19, that's actually my favorite number, by the way. It could be for reasons that maybe relate to maybe what you're about to say, or also my own personal reasons. But I heard Grand Sheik say one time when I was watching YouTube videos on YouTube, he said that number 19 is a special number. So I don't know if that's a question maybe I should say for him, or you can just answer. Why is that a special number?
Right.
And I heard you say that the Chinese, when you would go into a Chinese restaurant, they may incorporate certain aspects of maybe different religions that they all combine as one and the same, look at one and the same. So how does a Moorish American combine certain aspects of Africa?
Okay.
And maybe look at that as one and the same, or incorporating just to a way of life, a way of thinking, or a way of being.
Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you the answer to this one in part. I want to save the answer for Grand Sheik for number 19, because I'm not that well versed in it. I don't want to give you a complete answer. And I'm going to give you a short answer for the last question, and we can talk about it. I want us to, for the sake of time, talk about it later on after we lower the meeting, because we still have another speaker. All right, so the star and the crescent overall represents the concept of fidelity and nationality. All right, the star and crescent initially started off as the sun, star, and crescent. Okay, but over a period of time in evolution, the sun, star, and crescent represented, the sun represented the father, the moon represented the mother, and the stars represented the son or the daughter, etc., etc. And over a period of time, because our culture started to associate the land and the empires and the rulerships as mother. We removed the idea of we removed the sun and we just looked at it as the moon. So the star represents the child. So anytime you see a star in a star in the moon, or a crescent in the star rather, that is the representation of the people of that nation and the nation in itself. The star is going to represent the nation or the people, and the moon or the crescent is going to represent the place in where they reside, or the ideal they represent. And if you always see that, you always notice it, the moon is always cradling the star. All right? You've seen it before.
Yes.
You've seen it in Nosarama. You've seen it in with Hathor, with the sun, because the sun is also a star, right? And you've also seen it with Jesus and Mary. You've also seen it with Nook and Gad. All right? So there's several iterations of what we consider to be the star and the crescent, or the representation of the land or the people and the nation or the ideal or the rulership or the kingdom, etc., etc. That's initially what the star and crescent means. It represents, the star represents the people, and the crescent represents the ideal or the nation or the kingdom. All right. Why is it at the top? I would have to defer to my Grand Sheik. I'm not familiar with why. In certain cases, some is found in the middle. You'll even see in certain times is the crescent is right side up or upside down. In certain cases, you may see the crescent as upside down and facing this direction. It all depends on what said nation is representing what. And I'm not going to start dealing with semantics and start moves and stuff. I'm not going to do that. The African piece. How do we, as Africans and descendant of Africans, we begin to take on different ideologies? All right. Now, to keep it simple, so we can expound on that after we lower the meeting, we do it by way of this Moorish Holy Quran. All right. We as Moorish Americans are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Where's Morocco? Morocco is in Africa, right? All right. The principles that I just told you, the principles of Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and Confucius, they're found in this Moorish Holy Quran. Okay. They are not going to be there, quote unquote, verbatim, but you're going to see the principles. When you get to the first from chapters 2 through 19 of this Moorish Holy Quran, you're going to see Jesus going to many places. He's going to go to Europe, Africa, and Egypt. All right. He's also going to read from the Avestas. He's also going to go to places in India. So when you see those places as you read the Moorish Holy Quran, that is a cue for you to go and research this particular thing. Does that make sense what I'm saying? All right. So you're not, the way that cultures overall adapt customs is they filter it by way of what already exists through their culture. The reason that Africa took so well to Judaism and Islam, I'm going to use for in a moment, is because the principles are very similar. There was the principles of Ma'at were very similar to the principles of Al-Islam. The principles of the Torah, Allah, and like I was telling you before, Olodumare, having the 7 African powers, and the 7 creative spirits in the Torah, etc., etc. Those are very similar. So as all cultures, they start to receive the things that are very similar, and then depending on whatever the situation is, then they'll take on, whatever other customs are necessary if they want to adapt that particular religion full sail. Like I was telling you before, when you're dealing with people like Soniat Lee and Mansa Musa and Sondiata, it was rumored that they were quote unquote quasi-Muslims, where they only knew how to pray 5 times a day, and they adhered to the tenets of Islam, but they also adhere to the customs of their foremothers and forefathers, because out of respect, that's what they should do, because that's what the Arabs do. The Arabs would have you think that what they're doing is straight by way of the Quran. No, they're doing things to honor their foremothers and forefathers as they should. So to answer your question in the abbreviated term, the way that we begin to adapt those principles as Africans is by reading and understanding this Moorish Holy Quran. That's how we understand those four true and divine prophets.
Allahu أكبر حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر